Hey everybody, this is Jason, Colorado Mountain Man Survival. Today I'm going to show you how to make the Mojave Scissor Trap. To start off with a scissor trap, we have about 9 different components. The scissor trap is a bit like a snare trap, so you're going to need cordage. But we got a few key components. We're going to do 2 sticks really for the scissor part of this now, and then it's going to have a trigger set up. The trigger can be anything that you like to use. I've got a certain way that I like to use it with some number 7 sticks. You see those are number 7 sticks. I don't really need those right now. What I got to do is I want to make a scissor, a V. So I got to cut some 45-degree angles here. And then I'm going to tie these together with some paracord or some cordage down here at the bottom. And then I got to run some cordage from the top sides here. And I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. I've got my spring pole here already set up. Right where I'm standing is where I decided to set my trap. So I got the cordage on the spring pole, and I got my toggle stick that's going to tie into those number 7 sticks. I'll show you how to do that. Typically for the spring pole, if I were out here trapping for real, I would take and remove all these leaves and branches on the spring pole off so that the spring pole flies up as fast as it can, and that way less chance of your animal getting away. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the 45s on this V for the scissor trap, and then I'll show you what's next. Okay, so here's the scissor set up. The length on these, I just did my standard about 10, hang 10 for this on both of these. You can do these longer or smaller depending on what size animal you're trying to catch. This is your typical animal, a squirrel or a forest rat, maybe a rabbit, just a smaller animal. So here you can see I got the 45-degree angles here. They don't have to touch perfectly, but the importance is when you tie this together, you see I got that rope tied on there. I use the inner strands of the paracord. There needs to be some play in here so that this will set easy, and when it comes and triggers on the animal, around the animal's neck, it's going to get them more on the sides rather than down below. But this is also going to fly upwards, and there's going to be a stick over the top, and it'll get them on the back of the neck. But at this point, what's important is I cut a little notch here and a little notch, so you can see it. There's a little notch right here all the way around the stick, and one all the way around the stick here. And I also did the same thing up here. I got a notch all the way around the stick here and all the way around here. That's so that cordage can bite in there really well and it won't slip off. On this part of the cordage, this loop here, this just wraps around, and then you can see I've got a little loop tied in there. You can tie that however you need to, so there's a loop. And then this cordage that's tied on this side slides freely through this. The end of this cordage, the end of that piece of cord here, that is going to tie in to the spring pole, the toggle stick. So you see here I've got my toggle stick, and slightly above the toggle stick I just got another loop tied in. This is going to tie in here. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this in on here. Well, actually I'm going to wait because I need to gauge the length to the ground for this. So I'm going to tie this in as it's sitting on the ground. But the next pieces I need for this, before I even get to those number 7 sticks, wrap this up here real quick. I need 2 sticks, whatever length, but they need to be able to jam into the ground. But these sticks here are flexible, so I'm going to have to be able to bend them into a loop about like that, and they're going to jam into the ground. And about what I have above my hands here is about what, for the size of the trap I have, is what needs to be above ground. Everything else needs to be below ground. That allows that animal to come in there and it'll trap him in that loop. We're going to have 2 loops side by side right below where this spring pole is going to reach the ground. So I'm going to jam these in the ground next, and then we'll go from there. Okay, here's a setup for this part of the scissor trap. I've got these two long sticks jammed to the ground. You want them far enough down so that they'll hold the support of the tension on the spring pole. And then I've got two number 7 sticks here. These also have to be jammed down in the ground. That'll hold the tension from that spring pole. And then I've got this stick, it's going to sit right here, and the toggle from the tree is going to come down and pull up on that. I've seen these done a different way where people tie these together. There's no point in that. So this you know, this is the way they do it. This is how I do it. I'm not saying their way is wrong. I just do it different. Okay, so next I'm going to need my trigger, my toggle stick from that tree to come down. But before that, I'm going to need a bait stick. So let me grab a bait stick real quick. Typically I do something small for a bait stick that doesn't have a huge amount of surface area for where it touches the ground. So I'm just going to do a small stick. I'm going to gauge about the distance, about halfway up this arch. That's the length I want that bait stick. So I'm just going to snap this guy off. Now this bait stick could jam down in the ground. We don't want that. So I'm going to put it on a piece of wood. I've got a little piece of wood here. I'm going to try to balance it on that piece of wood. That disperses that weight to keep it from jamming in the ground. Here's my toggle stick. I'm going to pull this down from the tree, wedge it underneath this stick that goes in between these two. As you can see, where my finger's at, right there, that toggle stick is trying to go down. So I'm going to stop it from going down with this bait stick. Let's see if I can't get it here without it causing me too much trouble. Well, I cut that bait stick too short maybe. We'll see if we can get it to work. Nah, I don't think it, well, yeah, there we go. So that bait stick's in there. That's pretty sensitive. So we're gonna see if I can get the actual scissor trap to tie in there without springing that. You're probably still wondering what the heck I do with this scissor. So this scissor is gonna go in between these two arches. So it sits in there just like that. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some paracord. I'm going to tie around these arches. That keeps that scissor in place. You don't want it super tight. You know, it doesn't need to like hold it, pinch it in there really well. These have to slide freely, but you just want it kind of a little bit snug so that when the animal does get trapped in there, they won't be able to get out as easy. So I'm going to be really gentle here. You only have to do this once, and I could take this off, undo the trap, and tie it in, but I'm going to try my luck here. This doesn't have to be really tight. We can have this part of the cord loose so we can, you know, manipulate that around. But as you can see, I sprung that, but that's all right. That allows me to tie this tight here. I'm going to let this up, and I'm going to go ahead and go get 2 pieces of cordage, and I'm going to tie these 2 loops together. That way we'll be complete with this trap, and you'll be able to see what happens once we spring it. Alright, we're going to set this guy up now. Pulling down the toggle stick. It's underneath this. I went ahead and got me a slightly longer bait stick here. There we go. Alright, so right here is where you would put your bait. So the animal is going to come in through the V and grab that bait and pull it, and then he's going to get caught up in the scissor trap. So I'm put the scissor trap down in here. Again, this piece of the cordage can be loose. This is extra, so I can cut that off. I'm just going to set it off the side. And make sure none of the cordage gets wrapped up in this mechanism. Alright, so here's the general setup. Now this trap isn't complete. because this is a directional trap. The animal has to come through here. He's going to stick his face through there, hit that trigger, and then his neck is going to be caught between his feet. But for me to complete this trap, I need to put a fence around this whole thing. So I could take stakes and jam it all the way around. I could wall it up with grass. I could put logs on here. I could put rocks, whatever it takes, so that the animal, the easiest way for it to come in is right through here. All right, but I want you to be able to see the working mechanisms of this trap, so I'm going to leave it open. So the animal's going to come through. All the tension's right here. He's going to come through this V, this scissor trap. He's going to hit that bait, and now you got him. So he's going to fight, and because these are jammed in the ground so far, you know, he's not going to be able to go anywhere. It's holding him on the back of his neck here, his head here, and it's hitting him on the side of the neck here. It's going to be pretty quick. This trap, I believe, is more successful than your typical snare trap because you got hard, rigid material, and it's pinning him to the ground, and he's not swinging and flopping over all over the place. You got more chance of keeping him secure. And as long as your spring pull is tough enough and strong enough, there's going to be a huge amount of force all at once, and there's a good possibility this will just simply snap his neck, and it'll be a quick, painless death. One last thing for the Mojave Scissor trap, a little trick of the trade. My last video, you probably saw that I carved a Paiute deadfall. Well, this Paiute deadfall, if you're sitting around the camp and you're whittling a bunch of these, this Paiute can easily be converted into the Mojave Scissor trap. So same basic concept. Only difference is, you know, the Mojave's got an extra notch all the way around here. Well, you already have a notch here, but you're going to tie your cordage together here. The Paiute's got this notch here. You can use that as this notch on this side, and you're just going to need to tie a little notch. So if you're out setting your trap line, sitting around your campfire at night, first you carve a bunch of Paiutes, and then you go out. If you find a good spot to put a Mojave Scissor trap instead of a Paiute, you just take this guy and you turn it into this. 2 traps in one.